Hi there, welcome to Frames TM. Today I'm going to talk about an astonishingly tiny little lens which I discovered late, I would say, but which I've thoroughly enjoyed in the recent last few days. And it's this 28 2.8 by Nikon. It's a plastic mount lens. It's an incredibly tiny lens. I'll put the weight somewhere here. And what more, it's an incredibly cheap lens too. I would say affordable, not cheap. I'll show the price here again. Now, this lens is it's almost like a pancake lens. It is not a pancake lens. In fact, the 26 2.8, which came out about along with the 85 1.2, is half the size of this one. But this lens is so little, so tiny that you'll not feel the weight of it. This is beautiful with both your Z-line crop sensor cameras or Z-line full frame cameras like the Z6 II, the Z8, the Z9, then the ZFC, Z30, Z50. It fits beautifully with all of them. So if you have a full frame camera like the Z8 or the Z6 II, Z7 II, what you'll see is that if you look at how it fits in, it's almost at the level of the protrusion of the grip. So it's quite beautiful when you actually mount it on a camera, to walk around with it, to keep it in the bag and all those things. My lens, it did not come with a hood, and so yeah, it has got a 52 filter thread, which is quite standard. Thankfully it's not 49. Very difficult to find stepper rings of 49mm filter threads. Anyway, now the picture quality of this is quite good actually. I in fact found the picture quality to be slightly better than my 40mm. Okay, it has got, despite being this very light and small lens, this has got very good aberration control, fringing. It's got good sharpness across.
Hey, I just wanted to show you some of the distortion performances of this lens. Now if you look at this, we're trying to find longitudinal chromatic aberration here, and there is almost none. Yes, you can see a little purple something in this area, and on the top you will see a little bit of green shade. I won't call them, like, there is not really aberration. I just see a tone change from purple to green. That's about it. Now I'm trying to find some imperfections here. I mean, I cannot spot any aberration. Now let me show you where I did find a little bit of aberration. Let me show you this particular picture where those houses, those buildings are in focus. Now if you zoom in almost like by 400%, then you can see a little bit of purple fringing on those windows, and look at that wall that here, and a little bit on the railings. That's about it. I mean, it's incredible. You have to zoom in by 400% in order to see a slight bit chromatic aberration, and this is not an S lens. This is, I mean, a $200 lens, plastic mount, not an S lens.
So I mean, as promised, Nikon has maintained the quality of these small plastic mount lenses like this 28 2.8, the 40 f2, and then also the recent 12 to 28 DX zoom lens. Now these are all plastic mount lenses. The 26 2.8 is actually a metal mount lens. These are all plastic mount lenses, very affordable, yet they're also very high quality. Remember, these are not S line lenses. There is no S written at the end of 2.8. If you look at the design of the lens, you see how it looks retro. Remember, this is a full frame lens. So on a crop sensor body, this 28 is going to become somewhere around, I think, 42mm, but with light worth f4.2, but with bokeh worth of 2.8. Okay, remember that. So you're going to get decent amount of bokeh, but the light captured by a smaller sensor is going to go down. It's not going to be 2.8 worth of light. It's going to be for about f4.2 worth of light. Now, which is good for daylight situations, or even onset of evening, but it's not very useful when the sun has set, especially on a crop sensor body. But I have actually shot with the Z8 and this lens and went out. I'm not used to shooting with the 28 mm. As a street photographer, I find a 40 mm, especially in India where I shoot. In these situations, it's a very crowded place. Wherever you go in India, it's very crowded. So it's difficult to find space where you can compose well. So I'd like to kind of go a little closer and just keep in the frame what I need. 40 mm helps me there more than the 28. Having said that, in urban situations, I took out this 28 and I found the 28 to be really, really interesting, to be honest, because it has the width that's sweet and beautiful. It does not have the kind of width that starts getting difficult to manage. For example, if you shoot with a 24 mm lens, ever if you try shooting, I've always found it to be difficult. I'd always find that distortion comes in too quickly, and it's a kind of distortion that doesn't. The challenge is to how do you now manage the distortion instead of how do you add the distortion creatively in your pictures. So this 28 is a beautiful midpoint of wide angle lenses where it's just starting to be wide. It's not wide enough, I would say. So this 28 is just wide enough for most people's street photography needs and travel needs, especially if you can get a little close. If you cannot get a little close, then maybe you are looking at a 50 mm or even an 85 mm. But I think you should keep this lens in your bag nevertheless, because it's often useful in many situations, and at the same time it's quite affordable. I think it's about $200, which is a fantastic price for a full frame lens of this quality. Okay, now if you look at focus, I had no problem focus with this lens. This is also a great lens for studio. I have actually mounted it on Z30 and shot videos on this lens. So all in all, it's a beautiful lens. I've gone out to this lens quite a few times, and I've found the pictures that I gotten for myself. I was quite happy with the pictures. I started to like this, so I've decided to keep this lens. I took this lens from Nikon for a few days, but then I've decided to keep this lens, and I think it's a worthy piece in my collection of lenses and in my repertoire of gear. Now I have to say, if you look at the focal length, if you look at the f mount, previously Nikon did have a 28 1.4 for the f mount. They did have a 28 1.8 for the f mount. They're both fantastic lenses, mind you. They're both fantastic lenses. So I think it's a good start for that for this focal length. But I'm also expecting a 1.8 coming soon, maybe with a metal mount, definitely with a metal mount, and in the future possibly a 1. I'm not sure if there's going to be a 1.2 28 mm, but definitely a 1.4. And I think they should continue the tradition of creating the f1.4 lenses that they had, and we want an equivalent of that. So if you look at the competition overall, do other brands have it? Yes, actually Sony has a 28 f2. That's quite an old lens. I have not shot with the lens, but from what I know, that lens is slow, and that lens is slightly bigger than this. That is also a light lens, f2 lens, so slightly faster than this, a stop faster than this. But in terms of quality, speed of focusing, all of those things, I don't think any other brand has a competition to this. So I love the fact that Nikon has cut it so beautifully. You have a 20, you have a 24, now have a 26, then this 28, then a 35, then a 40, then a 50. I think there are so many options to choose from between 20 and 40 mm, which is really, really good. And the recent DX lens, actually 12 to 28, goes from 18 mm to 42 mm, right? So if you look at holistically, Nikon is offering a tremendous lot, especially for street shooters and casual photographers and travel photographers. And I think this should go in every shooters and travel photographers bag. Having said that, if you like this video, please share what you think in the comments, and please like And I have been, this channel is almost 2.5 years old, and I've seen that about 90% people who watch me do not subscribe. I don't know the reason. I'm quite consistent with content in this channel, and I try to bring you as many things about Nikon gear and Sony and Fuji gear as possible. Plus projections and rumors and gossips, they're always enjoyable. So if you find this video useful or entertaining, please subscribe. I'm going to see you soon with another one.